Welcome to my top 10 episodes of Star Trek The Original Series, Season 3. As always, this is a really difficult decision to make. I spent a lot of time rewatching my reactions to my favorite top 15 or so, and then tried to narrow it down, tried to rank them, and this is the list that I came up with. It's probably going to change tomorrow, but this is what it is today. Now, just to be clear, these are my favorites. The ones that spoke to me the most, the ones that entertained me the most, made me laugh, made me cry, whatever. These aren't the ones that I think are the best episodes, the most well-written, the most well-directed. I have no business making that kind of ranking because I really don't know anything about making a TV show and writing a story and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, this is just what I like. So first I want to start with some honorable mentions. There were 2 episodes that I really wanted to include in the top 10, and they were moving in and out of it, and on any other day they might be in the top 10. So I just wanted to give a quick nod to 2 episodes that I really enjoyed that just barely got knocked out of the top 10. The first one of those being Requiem for Methuselah. There were so many things that I loved about this episode. After I finished it, I was just thinking positively, but there were some things that kind of bothered me about it, so I didn't put it in the top 10. A few things that I really loved about this episode were the mystery that it presented to me. This is one that really just had me on the edge of my seat, waiting for them to reveal to me what exactly was the deal with Flint, with Reyna. How did this guy get all these works of art, paintings, music from these famous people in history, and yet they are undocumented and new paintings? At first I thought it was Reyna who was doing it, like he created this super android that could replicate things from pretty much anything or anyone. But the reveal that it was him and his whole backstory really intrigued me, and I loved the fact that I got to learn a little bit more about Spock's enjoyment of the fine arts. That kind of characterization is something that I really enjoy. Little tidbits about what our main cast are into, their interests, their hobbies, things like that. And the forget at the end. I thought it's really sweet. Though it's a slippery slope, because if he uses it for Kirk and Reyna, will he have to use it for another girl and the next girl and the next girl and the next girl that Kirk falls in love with? But I liked it for the fact that it just showed how much Spock understands what it's like to feel those kind of emotions. Even though Bones will go blue in the face telling Spock that he has no idea, he does, and he cares for Kirk, and I really like that. As for the romance part, a lot of people mentioned, and I have to agree, that it moves rather quickly. It's not really believable. For me, I think it's one of the most unbelievable romances, if not the most unbelievable romance that Kirk has with a woman. The other honorable mention that I have is For the World is Hollow, and I Have Touched the Sky. I love this episode for being a McCoy-centered episode, and also that he gets a romance. Again, it's kind of fast-moving, but this one didn't bother me as much as the previous one. It made a lot more sense with his circumstance of having 1 year left to live and seeing a way that he can find some fulfillment in his life and some joy and some company in those last few months of his life. Natira was amazing, gorgeous. I loved her outfit, her hair, and just the whole concept of these people living on this hollow world, thinking it's a planet, not knowing the truth of their situation. And then for Natira, learning about that and not wanting to be in the dark anymore. I really enjoyed the whole story of that one. Okay, now let's get into the top 10. So for number 10, I have The Way to Eden. And I know this is a controversial one, but I love this episode so much. I think Adam and Spock's relationship with Adam and just the singing were my favorite parts of this episode. I was just honestly mesmerized by Charles Napier. His smile, his enthusiasm, his singing, his playing the instruments. I mean, I guess he probably wasn't really playing the instruments. Well, maybe he was. I don't know. My favorite song was the final one when they were sabotaging the ship. Heading out to Eden. Yeah, brother. had the costumes and the makeup were super interesting. Everybody looked so unique. Some looked a little bit crazy, a little bit silly, but it was just really interesting to look at. The guy with the purple hair and the eyebrows and Adam's like thigh-high boots. And we got some amazing phrases to take away with us, like "Don't be a Herbert" or "Yeah, we reach, brother." Okay, number 9 is the Paradise Syndrome. This is one that when I was collecting all my favorites and trying to figure out which ones would be in the top 10, I originally thought, not this one. But when I was going back and rewatching my reactions, I thought, oh, let me just watch this one again and see. And I remembered how much I loved the story of Kirk and Miramanee. I think Kirk losing his memory and then living out a whole other life, getting a wife, a prominent role in this society, in this tribe, a child on the way, but still yearning for his life back on the Enterprise as he sees it in dreams. And then on the other side, we have Spock and McCoy, and they're both trying to do what they can to save Kirk and to save the planet. And they don't really agree on how they should go about that. They both just really, really want to do the right thing. And even when Bones is so mad at Spock because he thinks Spock's ruined everything, we're not going to be able to stop the meteor. We're not going to be able to save Kirk now. It's too late. The deflector phasers aren't working. He's chewing Spock out, but then he still comes in and says, hey, you're working too hard. You need to rest. Like, he still cares about his friend. Or maybe he's just doing his job as the chief medical officer, trying to keep the person in charge healthy. But I don't know. I just love it when those two get a lot of time together. I love the beautiful set, the beautiful costumes on this one, Kirk's feather like cape that he gets. And we get amazing lines like, I am Kirk! And the tragedy at the end with Miramanee was something that I did not see coming at all. I thought maybe she would lose the child because it would be problematic if Kirk had like a child left over, but I didn't think that the writers would go all the way and take Miramanee as well. And that made me so sad. And it made me feel very strongly, and so I remember it. And this episode sticks out to me in that way. And whenever I think about Miramanee, I want to cry. So I'm trying not to cry right now, but she just didn't deserve what happened to her. Now, if Spock said forget for Miramanee, that would make more sense to me. So by far, Edith Keeler and Miramanee are my favorite Kirk romances. Those really felt genuinely real to me. Number 8 is an episode that I enjoy, similar to Way to Eden, that it's just good fun, and that is Spectre of the Gun. I love the Western setting, the duel at sundown, quick draws, shootouts, all that good stuff. I love that Chekhov got some really great screen time as Billy. I loved the interaction with Bones and Scotty and Spock, where they forget that he is half human. They don't take it into consideration that he's hurting too when they believe that Chekhov has been killed. And it's a good reminder to the audience that Spock definitely does feel things, even if he doesn't show it. But I love how understanding Spock is, and maybe it's just his Vulcan nature to not lash out, to not get angry at them for saying really insensitive things to him, but just to say, you know, it's okay. They forget that I am half human, and that's just how it is. Also, the solution of doing the mind meld to make them believe that they will not be harmed by the bullets, I thought was a really clever way to go about things. That was really fun, and to see them get shot at and the bullets pass right through them and hit the wooden like board behind them or whatever. That was just really cool. And then Kirk goes, he beats the crap out of that guy, and it's good stuff. And it also taught me about the existence of the gunfight at OK Corral and Tombstone and stuff. And I still haven't watched like Tombstone, the movie, or any of the other like movies or shows that are based around that, but I definitely still want to. I want to learn more, and I just think it's really cool that they take a time and a place and people from history and incorporate in their stories. I just love that. Okay, this one is another controversial one, I think, but number 7 is Plato's Stepchildren. I will say that my number one reason for loving this episode is Alexander himself. He was played by Michael Dunn, and Michael Dunn did an amazing job. This is one of my favorite performances by a guest character. There were actually some really great performances by guest cast that I really, really loved. And we'll talk more about some of them in the later episodes that we talk about. But yeah, this one really stood out to me. Also, I just loved Alexander as a character. I really felt for him. He was trampled upon and taken advantage of for all these many, many years. And when he had the opportunity to gain powers like his oppressors, he said no. He didn't want to be like them. He didn't want to stoop to their level. And the writing and the performance really, really moved me a lot. Now I'm crying again thinking about poor little Alexander, but I'm so happy that finally we get to take someone off of a planet and save them. I'm still eaten up about Shauna. I really wanted to take her. Of course, we wanted to take Edith Keeler, but Alexander's the one that we got to take, and I'm glad that he got to go at least. And of course, you can't talk about Plato's Stepchildren without speaking about Parman and using his telekinetic powers to make Kirk and Spock and Uhura and Nurse Chapel do things that they didn't want to do. I understand why some people were upset by that. They felt it was humiliating to the actors. Maybe there's an interview out there where Kirk is like, you know, I really didn't want to do that. I felt humiliated. I didn't enjoy it, but I felt forced to do it. Then I would have a problem with that. I haven't really dug to see if there's anything like that out there, but to me, when I was watching it, I was like, he's having so much fun right now. You know, he's Tweedledee, he's Tweedledum, he's dancing around, he's acting like a pony, and I thought I would love to do that. I would not feel humiliated in any way. It's for the, you know, telling a story. I think some of the most effective storytelling is the kind that makes you feel uncomfortable, that makes you upset. It really drives a point home, a moral, and yeah, I really liked this episode, and mainly for Alexander. Michael Dunn, rest in peace. You did amazing. My number 6 is going to be All Our Yesterdays. Yes, I am recording this on another day because I ran out of time last time. So I love the concept of this episode. The idea of traveling back in time, of sending people back in different points of time to let them live out their lives to completion long before the sun is about to go supernova. The mystery of that was really intriguing. I had a lot of theories before we actually found out what was going on, and it was really fun to try to figure it out. I wasn't correct. They weren't in a simulation. They weren't being digitized, anything like that. It just threw me off that they were actually time traveling, because even though they were in different times, they were able to communicate with each other and with the library. But, you know, it's the power of the Atavachron, I guess. So yeah, concept really cool. And we get, yes, you guessed it, more awesome Spock and Bones interactions. I recall feeling super heartwarmed about the fact that Spock would risk his life to get Bones to safety, and then Bones, he's just thinking about saving Kirk, and Spock getting out of there okay and not freezing to death. So they're always putting each other ahead of themselves. So it really threw me for a loop when things started going crazy, when Spock started reverting back to the ways of the old Vulcans of 5,000 years ago. And I was like, well, just a second ago, I was saying that they would risk their lives for each other, and now Spock is trying to kill Bones. Fortunately, Bones was able to realize why that was happening, and we got to see some really nice moments with Spock and Zarabeth. I do love it when Spock's emotions get to shine forth, even though Spock doesn't really enjoy it a lot of the times. And I felt really sorry for Zarabeth. She had been alone for all those years. She got a taste of companionship, of love, of togetherness, and then it was just taken away from her. To leave her by herself in that cold, empty place was really tough. So all in all, this is just an episode with so many things that I really enjoy. If I was a little bit more interested in the stuff that Kirk was doing on his end of things, this probably would have been higher, but it will reach number 6 just based on the stuff that is going on with Spock and Bones and Zarabeth. We are now in the top 5. All of these episodes are ones that I really enjoy. I don't think I have any negative thoughts about them. And these are the ones that really moved me emotionally. And I think you guys know what's coming up. So for number 5, while this one wasn't the most emotional of these top 5, this episode had so much going for it, and that is Elan of Troyes. I think I'm still saying her name wrong. I think Kirk called her Elan, maybe Elan. But anyways, I love this woman. The actress, she's beautiful. Her hair, she looks like an Egyptian goddess. Her outfits, she has like 3 or 4 different outfits. And she is funny. Oh my gosh. It was great the first time I watched it, but when I was rewatching my reaction to this one, I was laughing at this lady so much. I got such a kick out of her. The spanking, the just everything, and her interactions with Kirk, they were just hilarious. I also really enjoyed Petrie's character, the way he looked and just his whole demeanor. He was really funny too. But the episode wasn't just a comedy, it had a lot of other good stuff too. By the end of this episode, I really felt for Elan. She was in a really tough situation, not in a situation that I would have enjoyed being in, having to marry somebody for political reasons. Of course, it was not completely against her will, because Kirk said, you know, if you don't want the responsibilities that come with your position, then step down from your position. But that's not what she wanted to do. So she did end up going through with it, but there was a lot of pain there. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of regret. I know the romance with Kirk was a little weird because it was kind of forced, against his will, but I still kind of bought it, even so. I don't have any issues with this one. It was artificially made, but it was still real emotions, and their goodbye was really touching. Again, like I mentioned when I first watched it, I would love to see a follow-up to this, find out exactly how it went with her and her promise to be. Excellent episode. I can't imagine ever skipping over it. I feel like I would enjoy it more and more every time I watched it. My number 4 is Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. I heard a lot of complaints about this episode in the comments, reasons why people didn't like it, or parts of this episode that people didn't like. The heavy-handed messaging, the makeup being so, you know, clear-cut, the kind of funny-looking running at the end down the hallway when they were chasing each other. But none of that stuff bothered me, and those are parts of the episode that I really liked. I loved how stark the makeup was. I thought it looked so interesting, the way they painted their faces. I loved the message and how they just really were not shy to put it in your face. I think it's an important message. And maybe there were reasons that they were kind of like shuffling down the hallway due to like space limitations and things like that, but when I was watching it, I just viewed it as like exhaustion, like the exhaustion of this chase, and then losing of all the hope that they had, and just holding on to that one thing that was keeping them going, which was their hatred for each other. I was like, wow, this is so deep. So maybe it was because they couldn't really use their legs to go because they had such limited space to go down those hallways and stuff, but I viewed it as a different way and it really worked for me. I thought the actors who played Lokai and Beale did fantastic with their roles. And the countdown sequence. The countdown sequence was excellent. I absolutely loved that. And this episode just really, really moved me. I thought it was so sad how they couldn't get past their differences. And I love a good tragic ending sometimes. Those are the episodes that really stick out to me, like City on the Edge of Forever. This one, Who Mourns for Adon, however you say it, with Apollo, Charlie X. Like, those are the ones that I really, really think about long after I've watched them. So I fell in love with this episode. Let Me Be Your Last Battlefield. Yes, it has to be in my top 5. Number 4, perfect place for it. It's time for the top 3.
Yeah, last semester I got nothing but C's.
A, B, C, you're in the top 3. What are you worrying about?
My number 3 is the Enterprise Incident. This is the second episode of the entire season, and this is the episode where I knew that season 3 was something special. And what made this episode for me? 2 things mainly. Joanne Linville and the characterization of Spock. So the Romulan commander, first of all, she's gorgeous, and she had such a commanding presence to her. Strong but gentle, tough but fair.
Way I see it, that's because you're tough, but you're fair. You're all about justice. That's what I'm saying.
I was absolutely pulled in by her. She had such a presence about her. I also loved the build-up of this episode. It starts out with something that you know I love, a big mystery. Why is Kirk acting this way? What's going on? Why are we going into the neutral zone? And as the pieces start to come together and it's showing that my suspicions are actually correct, I love that. And lastly, I thought it was really nice to see Spock connect with someone on that kind of level, on a deep level, a level of understanding, of familiarity. Spock has had a few romances that we've seen. Jill from This Side of Paradise, Zarabeth, which we just talked about from All Our Yesterdays, Nurse Chapel in a way, we'll see more of that in the animated series. But this is the one that just feels right to me. To me, the Romulan commander is to Spock as Miramani or Edith Keeler is to Kirk. They just work. I like them together. I can see them being a thing. And any episode that centers around Spock, I'm really going to enjoy. He's just such an interesting and complex character. Also, shout out to Kirk for getting surgery to look like a Romulan. My number 2 episode is The Empath. This episode stands out to me a lot because it's so visually different, as well as the substance. It's just a very unique episode. It really stands out from the other episodes to me. I love this simplistic black backdrop. It was like a theater. Jem, who was completely mute, no speaking at all, was able to convey such emotion with just her face and her gestures. By the way, this lady is gorgeous. Top 3 gorgeous Star Trek girls for me. Guess who the other 2 are? Her eyes. I could get lost in those big, beautiful eyes. I also really loved her outfit. I love the contrast between her outfit and the stark blackness around her. It was simple, it was flowy, it was elegant, and the way she walked like a ballerina. This was such a tender episode. I know there's some really horrific parts in it, but the quiet, the tender moments are so sweet to me. The music fits in really well. And then, of course, we have Kirk, Spock, and Bones showing their love for one another, their willingness to sacrifice themselves. And it's such a beautiful theme. And teaching somebody through your actions and through the emotions that you feel when you make the decision to put your friend's life in front of your own. It is such a truly beautiful thing. And also, my favorite song, I think, from the original series is, I think it plays in this one, it plays in Metamorphosis for sure. It's the really pretty one where it goes do 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 do. You know what I'm talking about? What is that song called? Can somebody tell me what it's called? Please and thank you in advance. Okay, and now we've come down to the final episode, my favorite episode of Star Trek The Original Series Season 3, and it's not even a contest. Is there in truth no beauty? What do I love about this episode besides everything? One of the things that really stood out to me on this episode was the camera work. They went crazy with the camera here, and I loved it. It was giving like some horror vibes. Used a lot of like first person looking shots. I think some people were telling me it was like a fisheye lens effect. Everything that they did here with the camera that they don't normally do, I really loved it. I thought it made this episode really stand out. I loved the really sci-fi angle that they were taking with this one as well, with the Medusan Kalos in this little box, something so hideous to the human eye that it would drive you mad. The glasses or the goggles that they would wear to protect from that, and then the way that Spock and Kalos have to meld together in order to get back into our galaxy after we were taken out by what's his name who went crazy, the guy who was in love with Miranda. I loved the twist that she was blind. We got introduced to the Idic in this, infinite diversity in infinite combinations, and that gives way to one of my favorite lines that Spock says at the end to Miranda when they're parting. And speaking of parting lines, it didn't really click with me when I first watched it, but I loved Kirk's parting line to Miranda when she said the rose probably has thorns, the one that he gave her, and he said that he never met one that didn't. And my understanding of that now is that even though he saw her ugly side, she still has value and she's still a beautiful person on the inside. And nobody is completely without fault or 100% pure or good. We all have our faults. We all make our mistakes. We all have weakness inside of us. And I thought that was very kind and gracious of him. Okay, here it is, the Spock and Miranda one. Miranda says, "The glory of creation is in its infinite diversity." And Spock replies, "And the way our differences combine to create meaning and beauty." I love that so much. It's so beautiful. It's so poetic. Those two overcame the quarrel. Well, it was kind of one-sided, but the quarrel that they had with each other, and how our differences make life wonderful, and that we should be celebrating those differences as opposed to letting them create a rift between us. I just still can't believe that people were talking down about season 3. I think season 3 it's really good. I love it. I fell in love with so many of these episodes. I don't remember the exact thing that this person said, but somebody mentioned that since season 3 is like a shorter season and there really aren't as many solid episodes in season 3 as the other seasons, that maybe I could do a top 5 instead of a top 10 if that's easier for me. And I thought, yeah, I could totally do a top 5. It would be easier to record, it would be easier to edit. But once again, I struggled to narrow it down to just 10. There were just too many good ones. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know that you guys your top 10s look completely different from mine, and I would love to hear about them. I hope you guys have enjoyed going through the original series with me. We still have lots more amazing stuff coming up. I'm currently working through the animated series. We're going to be doing Star Trek Continues, into the original series movies, The Next Generation, and so on and so forth. I am beyond excited to see what else there is out there for me to enjoy. So anyways, as I am recording this, we are getting well through the animated series. I hope you guys are enjoying that. I hope you guys are excited for what's to come. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Make sure you comment. I want to hear what you think about season 3. Okay, bye-bye.